This, and these are all AR-15s. This is an M16, but these over here are not an M16. They look the same, and yet the debate gets super heated. This confusion shapes gun legislation, and some people still think they're just assault rifles that should be banned completely. Alright, so the core distinction is that all M16s are AR-15s, but not all AR-15s are M16s. Every 12-year-old who plays games on the planet recognizes the silhouette and can tell you exactly which is which. So the M16 is just the government's name for it. And no, the letters AR does not mean assault rifle. It means ArmaLite rifle. The bottom line is that any gun using Eugene Stoner's direct gas system, so think of the gas block and how the gas gets diverted off the barrel port into the gas tube, then it comes into the bolt carrier to cycle the action. So if the gun is based on that concept, or anything very close to the patent, then it's an AR-15. Business-wise, when ArmaLite sold the patent to Colt, the deal for them was to receive royalty from anyone making copies. So when you see all these guns just by glancing at them, what ties them into the AR-15 family is basically the gas system. Regardless of the gas length, if the gas is diverted off the barrel like this to cycle the action shown in the video, it's an AR-15. So these are all AR-15s. But only this one in the middle is the M16. The US Air Force adopted the rifle first, and they held the first formal type classification of the rifle under that M16 designation. Then the Army followed with their version. Long story short, they added a forward assist and calling it the XM16E1. X means experimental. The letter E just means the engineering change, so E1 was the first change. And after some major upgrades, it became what we know as the M16A1. Whether it's A1, A2, A3, or A4, it's still the same gas system that defined it as the AR-15. In the civilian world, ARs are readily available and affordable. Having an M16 is just flexing. Yes, 5 figures plus a bunch of annoying ATF paperwork, and it's also hard to find. But there are some major mechanical differences, so let's start with the fire control group. The military M16 has that fun switch that most civilian AR-15s don't have. The full auto sear that releases the hammer after each cycle is basically the legal and mechanical line between the two. Meanwhile, a civilian AR-15 is semi-auto only, meaning the disconnector resets after every trigger pull. Even if it's an full auto civilian AR-15, you still won't call it an M16, because you're not the military, and honestly, you can just name it whatever you want. So if the receiver can accept these interchangeable parts, then it's an AR-15. The next is the bolt carrier group. This is probably one of the biggest differences that people can immediately understand. The M16 bolt has that full auto lug on the bottom, and yes, it works inside an AR-15 receiver, but it doesn't automatically make it go full auto without the sear. In fact, M16 bolt carrier groups are the most common on the commercial market today. And there is another thing called the drop-in auto sear, which I wouldn't cover unfortunately in this video. You can look it up yourself because it might just be too spicy for YouTube. The next thing is the trigger group pin size, which it doesn't change a damn thing on the name. Some of the Colt's receivers won't fit the full auto trigger parts anyway. Colt is the only AR-15 rifle manufacturer to use both small and large diameter pins in their trigger groups. Most Colt AR-15 rifles manufactured before '91 and after fall of '09 are probably small pins, while the rest made between those years are probably large pins. Okay, now here's the interesting part of this whole thing. When you simply just glance at the silhouette, anyone growing up watching the gunfight scene in Matrix with Neo in the lobby, or play Call of Duty knows exactly what this is, because once we have seen enough of them, then most people categorize them in their heads, like, oh, that's an M16 just because of the way it is. Like the carry handle, the long 20-inch barrel, and the classic front sight post. But if you take a civilian 20-inch AR and you put on a free float handguard and a flat top upper, then it's still just an AR. The way they look are like brand logos. When people see it, they immediately make the association in their heads without getting into the nerdy gun gripes. On the legal side, the naming of the AR-15 can be narrowed down to just one simple thing. Anyone making an AR-15 had to call it something else. Colt held the AR-15 trademark verbatim, and they kept that name exclusively on their commercial products because Colt owned the only label that actually defined what the gun was. When it comes to the ones cops use, they've got their own designations on top of that. Okay, the next one is whether civilian AR-15s are up to the same Mil-Spec standard as the military M16. The difference between a Mil-Spec commercial AR-15 and a government M16 lower comes down almost entirely to those tolerances and the fire control components, listed in this document that you can check out. For example, the Mil-Spec buffer tubes are slightly smaller in diameter with a smooth, straight profile, while the commercial ones are slightly larger and have this angled cut. That small difference in diameter and rear geometry means stocks are not interchangeable. Now let's look at this. This M16 doesn't have a case deflector, but this one does. The case deflector was added to the M16 A1, E1, then it was officially on the M16 A2. Does that feature alone make something an M16 and not an AR-15? But remember from earlier, the gas system is still the same, so this is still an AR-15. Now here's something I want you to think about. These right here may look like AR-15s, but they use completely different mechanical systems, even though they feel like one when you pick it up. Same mag release position, same ergonomics, same everything. So these guns like the H&K 416 or the SIG MCX that uses the Piston system to make the gun go bang are different patent systems. Their furniture may look nearly identical on the outside. They are kind of like Legos if you really think about it, but they run a fundamentally different system. And companies make guns like these because the user base can already access to what's already available on the market. So think of these external piston variants like different rifles wearing familiar clothes. But if you had to nitpick, calling an 416 an AR-15 is like calling a diesel truck a gasoline engine, because they both have 4 wheels and a bed, and gun forum people will get mad at you, so please leave your comment on what you think. Anyway, I hope this is plenty of info packed in a way that's digestible. Watch these ones here if you want to learn more.